Hello everyone, thank you for attending today. Today's webinar is on Dynamics 365 Customer Voice. We're really excited to be showcasing this to you and your team. Our objectives today are to really look at customer voice. It's a powerful survey tool that's within Dynamics 365. For those that are using Dynamics 365 Sales and Customer Service, you get 2,000 free emails and surveys you can send out per month, and there's mechanisms to top that up. Some people are sending out 10, 20,000 or more. And those that aren't yet on Dynamics 365 Sales or Customer Service, it is a standalone application, although obviously integrated within Dynamics 365. But you can purchase it for $128 Canadian per month. Obviously, it's just $100 US, but with exchange rates, Microsoft set that to 128. It can be purchased through your Office 365 admin panel. And for those that already have it, it's there for free. It's really just a security setting that has to be turned on so each of your users and yourself as an administrator can see it. And again, that's through the Microsoft 365 administrator panel, and your IT group or yourself, if you have admin rights, can set that up. Top scenarios for using customer voice can be used internally and externally. On the line with us is Brandon Frank. He's one of our CRM consultants, and he's going to take us through the process of some of the scenarios. But very easy to add a list or use an existing list. And the key purpose is around customer follow-ups. So post-sale follow-up with the recent Wave 2 release, field service now has it at the end of work order completion. It can trigger a customer voice survey to be sent out. Customer service, cases are closed, or if your individual customer service rep feels that they had a positive experience or negative, they can trigger that on a one-off basis or too many. Warranty claims, help desks, and as you see on the fourth scenario, vendor management. So we're getting a lot of interest in vendor KPIs. I think part of that is influence due to COVID to make sure that vendors and supply chains are intact and working in optimal fashion, sending out scorecards and creating KPIs around those. One of the basis is obviously gathering the data in the first place, and an online survey format is a great mechanism. So, as I mentioned, there's triggers and there's mailing lists for ways to send out customer voice surveys. These triggers can be created automatically or can be created based on customized workflows using the Power Automate tools, and that's something that either internal team can use or Endeavour can use those tools to create the various triggers for yourself. Out of the box, there are some key triggers that are very intuitive and will work nicely with case resolution and others. When it comes to mailing lists, the standard format right now is import a mailing list and have it sent out, and then maintains it within the app, which is great for those that aren't in Dynamics 365 customer service or sales as of yet. But those that are on the cloud, the release is just in the process of being updated to work with marketing lists and a really strong connection in with the accounts, contacts, leads, and other custom entities and accounts within your Dynamics 365 environment. So, enough with the preamble. Once again, my name is Scott Jorgens. I'm on the marketing team, and I'd like to introduce you to Brandon Frank. Brandon, I'll let you take it from here, and I'll make you presenter so you can start showing the customer voice screens, and we'll provide an overview, how to create and edit, obviously looking at the end user experience and the fun analytics. Brandon, over to you.
Thanks, Scott.
And I can see your screen.
Perfect. Cool. So Microsoft has made it pretty easy to access customer voice. So it's standalone app, but it's on by default. So there isn't anything special you need to do to turn customer voice on. You do have to give security permissions to be able to start creating surveys though. And when designing a solution, Endeavour can do that for you by assigning security roles to whoever may be creating surveys, or your designated Microsoft administrator could give you that security role. But once you have that security role, you're able to get in and create surveys. So you can access customer voice by going to customervoice.microsoft.com, and that will take you to the home page here. And this is sort of your dashboard for customer voice. So this gives you a quick overview of some of your satisfaction metrics. It allows you to continue work on surveys that you may have started or completed. And then it gives you some quick links here to some Microsoft provided videos on tips and tricks on how to use customer voice. So when you first get in here, you're not going to see much because you wouldn't have any surveys available. So let's go ahead and start creating some. So we go over here to all projects. We can see a list of the projects that we have. So projects are a way to sort of organize surveys and responses into a neat little package. So if you have, say, 3 or 4 surveys you want to use that are closely related to support, for instance, you can put those all into a support project. So here I have 2 projects, one for support and one for order delivery. So I would try to keep all my support projects and surveys in the support project. So when we come into here, we can see over on the left-hand side here, we have surveys and reports. So a project can have an unlimited amount of surveys. So in this case, we have 1 survey. And this is sort of our survey designer. And this is how we get in here and start creating our questions and send our surveys out to people. So let's take a look at the survey designer. So when you first get in here, you can create a survey, a template survey that Microsoft provides you with, which is just a basic survey that gives you a few questions. So how do we actually make questions here? So if we come down to the bottom, we can see we can add new. And this is going to give us a few options of surveys that we can add. Or, sorry, survey questions we can add. So we have an option of a choice, which is what number 4 looks like. And a choice is pretty much given a list of items, choose something on that list of items, and the user is only able to choose one thing in that list. Text is what number 3 is, and that's just a way for users to type text directly in. So if you have sort of an opinion piece that may not necessarily work with a choice or a rating, you can use a text field, and that way they're able to type directly what they want into a text box. You can give a rating, which is what number 1 and 2 here look like, and that's a way to sort of give a rating of 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, sort of to gauge how well the respondent liked something. You have a date question, which is pretty simple. Just ask them to input a date, and that will automatically pop up with a date picker, so you don't have to worry about date formatting or anything like that. If we click the caret here, we can see a few more options we have. Another is ranking. So given a list of items, the user can rank from least to worst within that list. A Likert chart, which is sort of a way to get a bunch of ratings for specific things. So it looks something like this. So you can have special statements here, and then the user can select their rating on how they feel about each individual statement. So this is a way to sort of organize a question or organize responses in one question rather than having a bunch of questions asking for what's your rating of this, what's your rating of this, and it just keeps it a little more tidy and neat. We also have the option to upload a file. So file upload is disabled when sending a survey out externally. But if you were sending a survey internally within your own company or your own team, you'd be able to have a file upload. And then here, Net Promoter Score is a metric that you can add. So this will tie this question here to a metric. And we'll get to metrics in a second. And metrics are just a way to quickly gauge an overall rating based on the response to this question. And we'll see what that looks like. We have some other options here for your questions. So you can decide if you want the question to be required or not. So it won't let them submit the form unless the question is answered. You can hide or unhide the question, and this would make sense for the branching. So depending on how a user may answer a question, you may want this question to pop up, or you may want this question to disappear. So this is just a way of setting its visibility by default. So those are the question options we have. We can reorganize our questions here. We can move them up or down. We can delete questions, and we can copy the questions. Here we have our thank you section. So a thank you section is what displays once the user submits the form. You can customize the message if you like, or you can leave it as the defaults. You have a footer, which is displayed at the bottom of the form. And again, you can customize this to your liking if you want, or you can leave it as a default. We have the option to create a new survey here. And again, all of our surveys are in the same project. So if we create a new survey, we can see here our colors are a little different. We can switch the colors around. We can add new questions here. So if you wanted to keep a survey separate, or you just had a survey that you wanted different questions, you can do that here if they still sort of are in the support category. If we go over to customization here, we can see we have a bunch of more advanced options. So one that you may find you use is branding. So branding is a way to sort of add your own colors, your fonts. You can add a background image. So if you already have a defined brand color, you can put that here, and that will change the color of your form. You have some formatting options for your survey. So progress bar, you can show, so the progress bar will actually make the questions pop up one at a time. And as the user hits next, it will show the progress that they are within the survey. And that's off by default. You can show your question numbers, and you can shuffle your questions each time the survey is loaded. You can define which languages you want for the survey. So if you are sending this out to a bunch of people that may have different languages, you can go ahead and add languages here. We have branching and personalization, and we'll come to these after. Satisfaction metrics, these are your metrics that allow you to actually tie specific questions so you can get a quick view at overall metrics such as customer satisfaction and customer sentiment, and that will show up on your dashboard. So the way you add metrics is you specifically tie them to questions. So we can see for our customer satisfaction, we have that tied to the question number one. How satisfied are you in the timeliness of the services that our team provided? So based on the answers that survey respondents give us for the question number one, it will alter our metric, and we'll see that in our reports and satisfaction metrics. We can add our own metrics here, or add more metrics. So we can add a Net Promoter Score, for instance, and we can choose a question that we want that to tie to. So we don't actually have a Net Promoter question in our survey, so we can't tie it to a specific question. But if we did add a Net Promoter question, and by default it gives us how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague, we can leave that as is. And in our satisfaction metrics, we should be able to add a metric to our Net Promoter Score question. And we'll see what these metrics look like once we get to the reports. So now that you've designed your survey and you have all the questions that you want, you're probably going to want to send it out to people. So let's see how we send it out. So we have a few options here. So we'll take a look at link and QR code first. So link is a very simple way of just sending out your survey to people. So it will generate a link to your survey. You can email this out, you can put this on your website, and users are able to click on the survey and respond to it. One thing to note with links and QR codes, though, is that if you have any survey variables, and we'll see survey variables in a minute, they won't work with direct links. You have the option for a QR code, so Microsoft generates a QR code automatically for you. You can download this, which downloads it as an image file, and you can print that and put it wherever you need to. And that works similar to a link in that it just directs users to the web page where the form is. So let's say we wanted to email this out to a bunch of contacts. So we can select email here, and we'll see that it's actually automatically created an email template for us to use. So this template, you're free to use this template if you'd like, or you can edit or create a new template. We can see the different templates up here. So for support feedback, our template's different. And it actually retains your branding information as well from the form designer. So you can see we changed our color to pink, and it remains pink here. If we wanted to change our email template, we can make any edits that we needed to here. We could bold this if we wanted, and we can save the template. And now we can continue to use this template whenever we send out a survey. If we have, you can see here we have variables here, first name and last name. So variables will actually replace these values with the values of the recipient. So if we send an email to John Smith, it will actually personalize the email and replace these values with John Smith. So how do we actually send it to someone? So the recipients here, so it will automatically look in, if you're a Dynamics 365 or CRM customer, it will actually find contacts in your Dynamics automatically. So if I start typing in names here, it will find people like that. Now this is a little, you likely wouldn't send a survey this way. So they've given you an option to import contacts. So it gives you a template file that you can download, and the template file is pretty much a comma separated value file. So you can open it up in Excel, and it gives you some columns that look a little bit like this. So you have an email column, which would be the email of the contact you're trying to bring in, the first name, and the last name of the contact. So these three columns are minimum columns you need, the email, first name, and last name. And then if you wanted to add your own variables, so just like how we have first name and last name here, we can add additional variables. So we can have their company, for instance, and we can put their company name in our email template as well. And that just adds another layer of personalization to the survey. And we can use these variables in the survey designer itself as well, which we can take a look at in a minute. So we upload our contacts through here. So I've exported these contacts from Dynamics 365, and I'm just importing them back into here. And we can see we have a giant list of all of our contacts, their email, and their first and last name. So we can import our contacts here. We'll see we have 165 recipients here. So 165 people will receive this email with the link to the survey, and their first name and last name will be replaced for each recipient, and we can send off our survey here. So this will send off the survey, and they will be able to start submitting responses. So some other things we can do is we can actually embed the first question of our survey directly into the email, which is pretty neat. So if we press embed survey question here, we can see that the first question of our survey is directly in the email. So this sort of adds another level of personalization, and it sort of keeps it cleaner and it allows users to actually select items in a question immediately. And that may increase sort of your response rate of the survey if you make it easier for them to respond to it. Some other options we have up here is language. So we have multiple languages again. We can select which language we want, and the email template will be sent out in that language. We can insert the survey link. So by default, Microsoft already gives you the survey link here. So unless you're designing your own email template, you wouldn't need to add that in. But this is just a variable to the survey link. You can add an unsubscribe link. And again, Microsoft gives that for you in the default template, but if you were making your own, you can add that. You can personalize, so this is where you add your individual variables. So here our variables are first name, last name, and company name. So if we wanted to add what this person's company name is somewhere in the email template, we can add their company name, and it will automatically replace that value with their company name there. So that's sending through an email. Also, it's important to note, so the from address on your email is going to be the user you are signed in as on Customer Voice. So in this case, I'm signed in as an administrator, and it's going to be sent via Customer Voice. So you can change this in your customization or your distribution settings over email. If you don't want it to be sent from, I believe the email's at forms.microsoft.com, you can set up your own email here and your own distribution channel, and that will allow you to send the email from, say, your own domain name here. So that's sending through an email. Let's see what other options we have here. So another way we can send the survey is through automation. So this uses Power Automate. And a Power Automate license is already included if you are a Dynamics 365 customer. You can purchase Power Automate if you don't already have Dynamics 365, if you wanted to integrate automation into your surveys. So if we click on automation, Microsoft actually provides us with a few templates that we can use. So since this is a support survey, and this specific survey is for when a case is resolved, we might want this survey to send every time a case is resolved in Dynamics 365. So Microsoft's already made this automation for us. So all we really have to do here is just click on our automation. What it's going to do is, behind the scenes, it's going to create a connection to the Common Data Service, which is where Dynamics 365 sits on, and Customer Voice. So we can see it's automatically created our connections for us. We have the green check mark there. We can press continue and create. So we have an option to edit it in advanced mode if we wanted, but for the most part you wouldn't really need to, because Microsoft's already taken care of all the behind the scenes. If you wanted to add your own sort of personalization to it, you could do so, but for the most part you shouldn't need to. You can select the environment. By default, it's going to select the environment you're already in, so you shouldn't necessarily need to change this. But if you know what environment you should be on, then you can change that. And then we can press create here. So that has automatically created a Power Automate flow for us, and that flow will run every single time a case is resolved in Dynamics 365. So there's nothing more that we need to do here. We can always come back and see how many people have responded, not responded, based on our invites. Since every single person is going to receive this survey, we can sort of see more stats here. So not responded, for instance. We can see people who have been sent the survey but haven't responded to it. We can see people who have unsubscribed from the survey. We can see the amount of times that it's failed. So maybe the email was incorrect when on the contact, or whatever the case may be. So, we can see how many times that they failed, and we can see the total number of people that have received it and the total number of people that have responded to it. So this is completely automated now, so we don't need to do anything. We don't have to send out anything anymore at this point. If we wanted to use, say, change an email template, then that would require going into Power Automate and changing the email template that's being used. But if you're happy with it, the default email template, then you're good to go. So another way you can send the survey is through embedding it. So embedding it gets a little more technical, and you may need a developer to embed the survey for you. It uses a lot of JavaScript, especially if you're using variables in your surveys. So it gives you the code, and it gives you a quick link here on how to use this specific piece of code. So if this is something you were interested in, embedding it in your website, for instance, or on your portal, you can go ahead and go through this means, and you can read the Microsoft article that they've made on how to do it. You have some options here: inline, a pop-up window, or a button on how the embed will work. Inline is directly in the web page. A pop-up means it will pop up in its own separate window, and a button means once you click a button, the form will show. And that will change. Depending on which option you select here, it will change the code needed to add that survey to your website. So that's sending the survey. So now let's take a look at our reports. So we actually want to see what's going on with our survey behind the scenes. So our reports here, so we have overall satisfaction metrics, and these metrics take into account every survey that we have here. So we have 2 surveys here, so these metrics will take a look at all the surveys that we have and sort of compile them and put them nicely into one quick little snippet view. So this is using our satisfaction metrics. So we can view our satisfaction metrics again up here, and we can see where our metrics are talking to. So our Net Promoter Score, again, is talking to this specific question on this survey. If we had another survey that was also had a question that was using the Net Promoter Score, that will show up here as well. And we can sort of see our customer satisfaction, our customer sentiment, and the Net Promoter Score based on the responses to those questions. So once you start getting a lot of responses in here, this is going to become really beneficial and really useful, as you'll be able to see a quick snippet view of everything. You can see sort of graphs here of over time, what has your customer satisfaction been. So you can sort of see trends in what's going on. Your customer sentiment, you see a pie chart here of the customer sentiment, positive, neutral, negative. So this is actually connected to a text question, which would be this one. Do you have any questions, comments, or suggestions that you think you would like to pass along to the team? And that's actually listening for the sentiment based on the answer that the user gives. So depending on how they've answered that question, it will actually tell whether or not if it was a positive response, a neutral response, or a negative response, which is really neat. You have some options here to filter your metrics. So you can filter all days. So this will just show every single response. You can show the last 7, 28, 90 days, or your own custom range. You can show specific surveys. So if I only wanted to see what the metrics were for when a case is resolved, for instance, I can see those metrics. But I'll leave it on all surveys. You can refresh your metrics up here, and that will take a look at all your responses and sort of refresh all the metrics again. And then over here under reports again, we have our individual responses to our survey questions. So we have under the case result post-survey, we can see our individual responses. So for question number 1, how satisfied are you in the timeliness of the service that our team provided? You can see the average rating of all the responses. So in this case, it's a smiley face, which is satisfied. The super smiley face would be a 5 out of 5. We can see we have 3 of those, highly satisfied. We have a very disappointed customer here, highly dissatisfied, and we have a neutral customer here. Again, this is the same question, so we sort of see the same thing here with our average rating. For questions that have a text response, you instead see how many responses you've had to that question and what the latest responses were. So we can see our latest response to this question would be service could be a little faster next time. And another person said they just didn't have anything to add. For our options, we can see a pie chart here, which shows us how many people have given our answers of yes versus no. If you had more options here, so in this case we only had 2, but if you had more, they would all show up here. And then again, you can see sort of a little table of your responses. So we haven't had any responses to this question yet because we've just added it, but this will show up as a bar chart. And this is the Net Promoter question. So how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? So once people start submitting responses to those questions, you'll see those there. You can also export these responses, and this will let you export it into an Excel sheet, and that will let you sort of do Excel formulas on it, and you can get really funky and sort of dive deeper into the answers that you're not necessarily able to do so here. Here you can see the respondents of your survey. So in this case, they're all anonymous, but if you sent this, and the reason they're anonymous is because they were sent via the link or QR code. So since those are sent as a link and not necessarily sent to a specific person, Customer Voice doesn't have a way to know who responded to those. But if you sent it to a specific person, then you would see them as the respondent here. And you can choose which options you want on the survey, so you can decide who you want the survey to be sent to. So in your send customizations, distribution settings, you can decide who is allowed to respond to it. For instance, only people in my organization can respond. You can set that to on, and that will force them to sign in to be able to complete the form. You can allow or disallow anonymous responses. You can make it so you can only have 1 response per person. And you can also add respondents as contacts. So this will automatically add a respondent as a contact. So if they added information, you can add them as a contact. So if you sent it out via a link, for instance, and you had a question at first name, you can add them as a contact. You can restrict when you want the survey to accept responses. So if you don't want the survey to accept responses at all, you can turn that off. If you only want to accept responses at a specific date range, you can do that here. And once you've reached a certain limit, you can turn off responses. So once 100 people have responded, you can stop responses to the survey. You can make it so links expire after a certain amount of time. So if I turn this on, I can disable links older than 30 days. So anyone who has a link and the link was generated over 30 days ago, that link will no longer work. You have the email distribution channel again, so this allows you to select which email you want the survey to be sent from. And you can add notification preferences. So send email receipts to all recipients. So every time they've responded to a survey, they'll receive a receipt of that. And you can also set up where you receive notifications every time a response is submitted for a survey. So that's a quick start way of getting your survey up and running and sent out to people. Now, customer voice also has a few more advanced options that you can do. And these are the branching and variables. So branching is a really cool way of organizing the flow of your survey. So depending on how people answer specific questions, you can sort of decide which questions you want to show. So for instance, let's come in here and make a rule. Excuse me. And let's add a condition. So our condition could be a few things. A condition could be an answer to a question or the value of a variable. So let's keep it simple for now, and let's put an answer to a question. So let's select how satisfied are you in the timeliness of the service that our team provided. And we have some options here. So we can say if the answer to this question is less than a 3, so this is not inclusive of 3, it's less than 3, we can do something. So we can add a new question. So this is where the visibility comes into play. So we can add a question to our form that says, we're very sorry to hear that. How can we provide better service next time, for example? And by default, you would hide that on your form. And in your branching rule, that's where you would come and show that question. So in this case, we would want to show a new question. And we don't have the question here, but if we did, we could show that specific question here. And that adds a whole nother level of personalization to the form. Some other options here are hide. So rather than show, we want to hide a specific question. Or navigate to. So we can sort of skip over a few questions and go directly to a different question if we wanted. So that's what we do if it's true, and we can add multiple actions here. So we can show a few questions if we wanted. Then we also have the condition that it's false. So in the event where they actually provide a 3 or higher, we can do something else. So the if true is enough for the rule to start, but we can sort of continue our logic and go down a different route if it was greater than 3. But we'll leave that for now. So we can save this rule. I don't have an action there. And we can sort of, so we have the rule here. So now this rule is in effect. So now, depending on how they answer this question, the rest of the form and the questions may be different. And then in addition to branching, we also have variables. So like the emails, variables are a way of adding a level of personalization to the form. So by default, Microsoft gives you these 4 variables. So we have first name, last name, locale, and company name. And depending on who we send it to, for instance, we can specify the first name and last name. If in that Excel spreadsheet, say we had the company name as another column, we can also add the company name to the survey and the email. And we can add our own variables here as well. So this, again, adds another level of personalization. And we can add more variables here. So in your text areas, you have the option variables up here, and this allows you to embed the variables into your form. So we can say company name here, and we can continue and say we are happy that company name, and then whatever sort of wording you want to use here. We are happy that company name has decided to try out a product, for instance. So now company name is going to be replaced with whatever the company name of that person is, which is really neat. So formatting here. So that's branching and personalization. So that's a way to sort of get really deep into personalizing the form and adding logic and flow. Not every case you may want to use that, but it's always there if you need to. I think it's really cool, and it can do some really fun stuff. So I would encourage you to take a look at it and give it a try. So I just want to finish off here quickly with formatting options that we have. So formatting, we can show a progress bar. So this will actually change the layout of the form in a way. So by default, once a user takes a look at the form, it's going to show every question at once. So we can see, it will look a little similar to this. So every question will be there. So if we add a progress bar, it sort of changes the behavior a little bit, where one question will show up at a time, and the user will press next on each question. And then it will also provide a progress bar at the top that shows how far into the survey you are. So that's just a different way of organizing the form. If you wanted every question just to be on the form at once so the user can see every question, then I would leave this off. It's off by default. But if you wanted sort of to add a level of flow and the user pressing next and getting an indication of their progress, you can do it this way. You can show or hide your question numbers, and you can shuffle the questions. So each time the survey is loaded and sent out, the questions will be in a different order. And that is used to sort of avoid bias in the question. So that is customer voice. And again, it can get really advanced with your branching and your variables, especially when you sort of add them onto your websites and you have JavaScript in there dynamically adding in variables. You can add a whole level of personalization. You can add branching and specifics. You can view your satisfaction metrics on each question. You can view overall responses to your surveys, so you can get an idea of your average ratings. You can export your responses to an Excel spreadsheet and continue there. You can add specific formulas and get percentages there. You can create email templates and choose different email templates depending on the type of survey you have. You can automate your surveys so they're sent automatically once certain conditions are met, especially in Dynamics 365. You can embed your surveys in your website. You can get a QR code and link and put the link on your website. You can put a QR code and print that and put that wherever you need. So customer voice in general is a really powerful tool, and it can get really advanced, and it can be very beneficial, especially with these satisfaction metrics. So that is customer voice from me. So I will pass it back over to Scott.
Yes, thank you very much. That was awesome. I'm just going to put it back to the PowerPoint, and then we can wrap up. I think it's such a simple and elegant tool. Thank you for Brandon for showing some of the advanced functions and the flexibility within it, and knowing that it's free for Dynamics 365 sales and customer service users. It's just a nice, easy extension to the current efforts. For those that are watching this recording online, Endeavour's been around for 30 years now, a variety of brands, Endeavour 365 for CRM, GP Support North for our GP team, and Endeavour Solutions for our master. Advisory services, implementations, ongoing optimization and support for our clients on the Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Dynamics platform. and pulling in all of the Microsoft Cloud components. We're currently Gold certified for Cloud Platform, Cloud Analytics, ERP, and a variety of other Microsoft certifications, including CRM, and are here to help you and your team. So next steps, reach out to James or Steve, or talk to our Endeavour support desk. Those that reach out to Endeavour support, especially for existing clients, for Brandon or others on our CRM team to turn on and work through a few of the really quick and easy steps, user permissions, and get you set up and started. We're talking 1 to 2 hours, so it's just a quick support request, and we can help you out. Obviously, we're here for some more of the higher level or more complex transitions and workflow and triggers, and we can work through on those processes, and obviously no surprises. So as you talk to support, just turn it on, ask them, I also want to do this, and here's some additional objectives, and we'll work you through those steps. So with that said, thanks very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.